Who is the rudest celeb you have met? What happened? Bill Cosby was the most egotistical motherfucker I've ever met. Billionaire tipped a buck and an autograph and kept looking my trainee room service up and down. Massive main character issues and was a pain in the ass to everyone. And the nicest? George Carlin, hands down. Complete gentleman and loved his coffee. GD, I miss that guy. It was such a mindfuck to stand there in front of my favorite comedian ever and have a whole convo with him for like 5 minutes. And there he was. I cried afterwards. Once in a lifetime experience. I think it's way more funny than rude, but Allen Iverson. I was young, probably 9-10 years old. My dad and I were coming back home from a soccer tourney in NC. We stopped at an Applebee's in Newport News for lunch quick. We walked in. 34 of the restaurant was blocked off with people. My dad goes, "Oh hey, that's Allen Iverson, go say hi." I walk over and say something along the lines of, "Hey, I like basketball, you're really good." Wanted to say hello. And he goes, "Not now, lil man, see how many bitches are up in here." William Shatner said he would give me an autograph in Hawaii when I was about 10. He said let me get a pen, got in his limo and drove off. The rudest celebrity I ever met was Jack Nicholson. I asked him for an autograph and he growled at me that he only signs autographs for chicks with huge tits. Flip side, nicest celebrity I ever met was Lemmy Kilmister from Madrid. I was at a bar and he sat down beside me. I was in awe and stammered out, "Let me buy you a drink." He said, "Nah, you can't do that." I was a little dejected and hung my head. He immediately burst out in laughter and said, "Kid, I'm a goddamned rock star. Let me buy you a drink." I then spent the night with Lemmy buying me Long Island iced tea while we talked about 60s British science fiction. Met George Lopez at a Dodger game, complete asshole. Told a buddy who works at the stadium about it and he was like, "Oh yeah, he's rude to everyone down here and doesn't tip, fuck that guy." I met Jared Leto in Nashville in the early 2000s with my female friend who was very attractive and also 16. Didn't stop J-Dog from asking her if she wants to go fuck in the first few minutes of meeting. She declined and was very grossed out by it, so we left. True story. I hung out with Charles Barkley once in Philly and for some reason he took a liking to me and was very candid and open. He told me you have to be nice to every single person you meet, and it can be exhausting. But if you meet 100 people and are nice to 99, but not to one, then that one will bash you and tell everyone what a terrible person you are and people will believe them. Awesome guy. Tommy Lee Jones was awful. Worked with him doing press on a film he was in and we had to keep him plied with alcohol to even acknowledge the reporters. Had also groped the female staffers with regularity. Just nasty. Ralph Nader. I was his PR representative once. He's arrogant, condescending, rude, and demanding. OTOH. I also represented Martin Sheen at one time and he was the nicest, kindest, warmest person I have ever met. He knew he was being hosted by a non-profit, so he insisted on paying for his own rent car rather than let them get him a car and driver, and after his event, he insisted on taking his entire local PR team to dinner and picked up the tab. When he left, he publicly thanked me and shook my hand. I meet a lot of celebs with my employer and Will.i.am takes the cake. He showed up to the airport without an ID to catch a commercial flight and tried to pull the whole "do you know who I am?" bullshit when he found out that he had to go through the verification process like everyone else who doesn't bring their ID like any grown-ass adult would. He screamed and acted a whole fool and the cops were called. Ultimately he got put in his place. I have some clients that interact with celebs and I get fun stories. One client is a private pilot. He said the loveliest he's flown is Green Day. Like, he just went on and on about how sweet and genuine and thankful they are. He said Mike Pence was extremely polite, a true gentleman even though he can't stand his politics. He said Ariana Grande was a raging cunt and literally one of the worst people he's ever met. Trashed his plane. Insanely rude and demanding. He refuses to fly her anymore. I have a few clients that work in film. My god, do they love working with Nicolas Cage. Very professional and extremely personal. Likes to have deep conversations and connect with everyone on set, remembers everyone's names. I love hearing Nick Cage stories. Jared Leto is a piece of shit. Aside from being an outright weirdo and an awkward human being, he is a predator and groomer. He harassed, stalked, and attempted to sexually prey on a friend of mine. When she refused his advances, he turned the dial from 100 to 1000, and mind you, this was after one meeting, and no sexual contact or lead-on from her. When she tried to inject a male friend in the situation, he was vehemently opposed to this. Hundreds of phone calls and texts. Avoid at all costs. I worked in entertainment for a while, so I've met dozens of A-list celebs and like 1001 hit wonders. Celebs themselves are usually pretty cool. It's their random ass entourage and family members that think they matter who get really annoying and treat you the worst. Usher was the opposite. His label people were cool, but he was a diva. Nicest celeb I've met, Matt Ryan the Kubi. For sure. Spent a whole day with him. Dude talked to everyone and made sure everyone was included and had a good time. One of the most fun work days I've had. This was during 2011 lockout, I think. Haven't met too many celebs, but I gotta say that Bill Nye the Science Guy was the rudest. I grew up in Seattle and I ran into him with my dad when I was really young and he was setting up for a shoot for that show down on Alki Beach. I was a huge nerd and he was one of my heroes because of that show. My pops told me to go say hello, so I did, and Bill responded something along the lines of "Get out of here, kid. We're busy. Where are your parents at?" And I pointed at my pa across the beach and was like right over there. Bill told me to leave him alone. I was devastated, mind you, I was like 6 or 7. On the other hand, I met Woody Harrelson and Willie Nelson on separate occasions when I was a bit older, 22 or 23, and living on my own in Maui. They were both super nice. They were both stoned, as was I, when I met them. When I met Woody, I was working at Mana Food stocking shelves, and Woody walked down the aisle I was stocking. His eyes were squints that were red as hell, and when I saw him coming I just said, "Hey, Woody, how's it going?" And he responded, "Hey, what's up, man? It's good. How are you?" We had a little conversation before he got back to what he was doing and I got back to work. It felt like a genuine chill meeting with someone I respect. I interned at a music management company in college, and one of the clients was Meatloaf. I answered the phone, and he asked for his manager. I told him the manager was on a call, and he started screaming, "He's on a fucking conference call? Are you fucking kidding me? Meatloaf. You know what, fuck you." Then hung up. As a 19-year-old trying to get into the music industry, my face went white, thinking my career was over. To his credit, the manager, who had a famously bad temper himself, walked over to me, told me that Meatloaf was a buffoon who nobody respected anymore, and to not worry. Dennis Hopper didn't smile once or make eye contact or tip. Not even after he forgot his cell phone and it had to be kept under guard for him for 6 hours. Not even a thank you. Crushed me. Best. Billy Zane. I pull out the Billy Zane story every chance I get, so I'll spare you the long version this time. That guy was a legend. Hung out us the entire night and came out again the next week just to hang out with us some more. Justin Timberlake. We were staying at the same hotel and he wouldn't let my elderly grandmother on the elevator with him and 2 others. He stuck out his hand and said no and closed the door. On the other hand, Jessica Biel, who was in the restroom, was very friendly and talkative to my little sister while they were washing their hands together. My grandmother asked later, "Who was that asshole?" I laugh. Stephen Baldwin and Chad Michael Murray both tried to get stuff for free and pulled the "Do you know who I am?" for something that was $5. Baldwin also gave his number to a teenage co-worker and we called it to see if it was real, not even thinking about caller ID. He spent the next year randomly calling her. My favorite celebrity encounter was making a smoothie for Gordon Ramsay. He was super nice and said he would be back later to get his friend something. The friend was David Beckham, who was also super nice, and they stayed and took pictures with everyone. My husband worked for a very popular ski resort and got to meet a lot of celebrities. He said Leonardo DiCaprio was one of the rude ones to staff and a stingy tipper on huge bills. On the flip side, he said Adam Sandler was actually really nice and pretty generous on tips. Edit. I'm not going to debate if tipping is right or wrong. That's not the point of the question.